Hey, what's up, YouTube family? It's your favorite content creator from Nebraska. And yes, there are melanated people here in Nebraska. So I like how you guys are responding to my video in regards to who officially is the forefather of African American studies and Pan-Africanism. I see that's opened a lot of eyes. I see that it's informed a lot of people. I've gotten some good responses. The views could be more, but you know what? It's better than what it's been. So I'm going to continue to go down this road. Next, we're going to talk about another one of our so-called African-American heroes that we've propped up in our community as somebody who has done a good work in our community, has informed us. When in reality, the more information that we find out, the deeper that we dig, if it sees as though he was one of those individuals that was put in front of us as a hero type, and he was everything but that. Mr. Marcus Garvey. I mean, whenever you hear Marcus Garvey, you hear nothing but just an adoration and respect when it comes to our community. Only because we don't know the full truth. We only know half of the truth. So this is going to be another one of those videos, man, where you're not going to want to miss this. Just like the previous video content from yesterday, you're not going to want to miss this one, man. This is another eye opener. This is another bomb dropper. I wish I had one of those sound effects, man. But as time goes on, more and more gets revealed. This book that I'm reading out of, you can't find a physical copy of this. I looked online. I had one gentleman tell me that, man, this book costs a physical copy of this book costs like 50 or 60 grand or something like that. I don't know if that's true, but one thing I know for sure is that you can get on archive.com. Very, very large. I don't know if it's the largest internet library, but I know it's the largest free internet library, archive.org, and you can get all this information for free, right? You ain't got to pay for none of this. So, hey, man, just keep on, buckle in. And keep riding with me on this road to truth, man. And because we've encountered some speed bumps, man, and we've really opened some eyes to what the truth is. And these people, all skin folk ain't kinfolk, y'all. It's just not. The more we go down this road, the more we learn, the more we understand that all skin folk ain't kinfolk, and Mr. Garvey is one of them. So let's go ahead and get started. Caribbean American Heritage Month. Marcus Garvey, June 21st, 2019, by Jesse Kratz, National Archives. Marcus Mosiah Garvey Jr. was born on August 17th, 1887, in St. Anne's Bay, Jamaica, as a son of a stone mason in the British colonial West Indies. He experienced oppression and was considered in the lowest position in the colonists and hierarchy. In 1914, however, after he learned about colonial Africa from Booker T. Washington's book, Up from Slavery, Garvey envisioned a movement that would unify black people around the world. Garvey's World War I draft registration card, as you can see, that's what is in front of you. At the bottom, Marcus Garvey's World War I draft registration card indicates that he worked as a journalist. Was born in Jamaica. He specified his race as colored, of course, because that's the option that they gave people, and that he was a citizen of Great Britain at the time of registration. 1917, published by National Archives. And the identifier is a number. So he was at the lowest point in society. And at a low point in society, you can still become a journalist. I don't know. I'm not saying that there's something to that, but I just noticed that. He said he's at the lowest hierarchy in society. Did he work himself up to be a journalist, or was that an option for him? I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. I just wanted to mention that. So let's go ahead and go on to the next page. On this page, we have Garvey's World War I draft registration card. Marcus Garvey's Declaration of Intent of Citizenship for the United States, September 1st, 1921. Garvey never received U.S. citizenship. Note that the age area might look like a 3, but it actually says 34 if you zoom in. The publisher, National Archives, and you have the identifier number. After the establishment, the Universal Negro Improvement Association, UMIA, in Jamaica in 1914, Garvey moved to Harlem and established the New York branch of UNIA in 1917. Through the forum, Garvey's Pan-African and Black nationalist message became known as Garveyism. Pan-Africanism is principle of or advocacy of the political union of all the indigenous and dispersed ethnic groups of Black descent. Garvey asked, where is the Black man's government? Where is his king and his kingdom? Where is his president, his country, and his ambassador, his army, his navy, his men of big affairs? I could not find them. And then I declared, I will help make them. In order to answer these questions, Garvey and UNIA began the Black Star Line in 1919. The mission of the Black Star Line was to foster black trade, to transport passengers between America, Caribbean, and Africa, and to serve as a symbol of a black grandeur and enterprise. In 1919, Garvey formed the Black Cross Navigation and Trading Company. With $10 million invested by his quote-unquote supporters, Garvey purchased 2 steamships to take African Americans to Africa. At a UNIA conference in August 1920, Garvey had declared himself provisional president of Africa. By 1920, the Black Star Line, had 3 ships, and its flagship, the SS Yarmouth, made its modern voyage in November 1919. The Black Star Line promoted the UNIA as its most prominent and powerful recruiting asset and sold a total of 96,285 shares of the Black Star Line. The Black Star Line, 1919 to 1922, was a shipping line incorporated by Marcus Garvey, the organizer of the Universal Negro Improvement Association, and other members of the UNIA. The shipping time was created to facilitate the transport of goods and eventually Black Americans to Africa. It derived its name from the White Star Line, a line whose success Garvey felt he could duplicate. The Black Star Line became a key part of Garvey's contribution to the Back to Africa movement, but it was mostly unsuccessful, partially due to infiltration by federal agents. It was one among many businesses which the UNIA originated, such as the Universal Printing House, Negro Factories Corporation, and the widely distributed and highly successful Negro World Weekly newspaper. The Black Star Line and its successor, the Black Cross Navigation and Trading Company, operated between 1919 and 1922. It stands today as a major symbol for Garvey followers and Pan-Africanists. It is not to be confused with the Black Star Line, the state shipping corporation of Ghana. The success of the Black Star Line culminated in the 1920 UNIA convention that ratified Garveyism on the official doctrine of the movement. It offered a program for African independence and racial sovereignty through the relocation of the diasporic groups to Africa using the Black Star Line. However, top-level management and corporation, along with the expensive repairs, sunk the Black Star Line, as it should have. As the Black Star Line began to flounder, Garvey's contemporaries criticized the outspoken leader. Cyril Briggs, a fellow Caribbean American and leader of the African Blood Brothers, founded in 1919, condemned Garvey's leadership and raised embarrassing questions of fraudulent behavior within the Black Star Line. I mean, telling somebody we're going to get you back to Africa when they're not from there, I mean, that's fraudulent to begin with. within the Black Star Line. W.E.B. Du Bois conducted an in-depth investigation into Garvey's and Black Star Line's finances, which he published in the magazine Crisis, and blemished Garvey's reputation as a black leader. Well, when you're condensing all black people into one group and saying they're all from Africa when you know they're not, I mean, what else is supposed to come from that? But let's go ahead and go to the next page. The Garvey indictment. In an attempt to save the Black Star Line, Garvey negotiated with the United States Shipping Board to purchase the SS Orion as an African ship. However, negotiations failed due to pressure from the Department of Justice and critical black leadership. On February 15, 1922, Garvey was indicted on charges of mail fraud, tax evasion, perjury, and income tax fraud, along with 4 other officials of the Black Star Line, based on evidence submitted by Cecil Briggs. In the trial in which Garvey defended himself, the prosecutor stated that Garvey printed a brochure for the Black Star Line, which promoted the ship SS Phyllis Wheatley. However, the ship was still registered as the SS Orion, and the contract still needed to be agreed upon for purchase. So the ship never belonged to the Black Star Line. The other accounts of fraud were based upon misleading sales of stocks of the Black Star Line, shown in last page. In the end, Garvey was the only defrauded, proven guilty of fraud. Many of Garvey's supporters, as well as Garvey himself, believed the trial was politically motivated. It always, 10 out of 10 seems to be. Garvey arrested and deported. In the trial in which Garvey defended himself, the prosecutor stated that the Garvey printed a brochure for the Black Star Line, which promoted the ship SS Phyllis Wheatley. However, the ship was still registered as the SS Orion, and the contract still needed to be agreed upon for purchase. So the ship never belonged to the Black Star Line. The other counts of fraud were based upon misleading sales of stocks of the Black Star Line. In the end, Garvey was the only defendant proven guilty of fraud. Many of Garvey's supporters, as well as Garvey himself, believed that the trial was politically motivated. Okay, I read that already. After Garvey was convicted, he was arrested on February 5th, 1925, and taken to a federal penitentiary in Atlanta, Georgia. However, on November 18th, 1927, President Calvin Coolidge commuted Garvey's sentence because of the plea deal with the UNIA and his supporters, as well as Garvey's lawyer. Garvey was immediately deported back to Jamaica. Garvey never returned to the United States and lived in London until his death on June 10, 1940, from a stroke. In 1964, Garvey's body was moved to Jamaica, where he was buried in a shrine in the National Heroes Park in Kingston and named Jamaica's first national hero. Who was Cecil Briggs and the African Blood Brotherhood, you may ask? The African Blood Brotherhood for African Liberation and Redemption was a U.S. black liberation organization established in 1919 in New York City by journalist Cecil Briggs. The group was established as a propaganda organization built on the model of the secret society, as if we need more secret societies. The group's social orientation caught the attention of the fledgling American Communist movement, and the ABB soon evolved into a propaganda arm of the Communist Party of America. The group was terminated in the early 1920s, and you see here we have an article. We have their insignia in the left-hand corner of the paper. I'm going to read this information down here at the bottom. The African Blood Brotherhood is probably the first Negro secret organization to be effective in the Western world, having it as its sole purpose to the liberation of Africa and the redemption of the Negro race. The organization now numbers over 1,000 men and women of African blood. It is confined to persons of African blood. Its organization has been carried out along lines similar to the secret fraternal orders and societies. It has of its own, with degrees, passwords, signs, and a formal initiation ceremony with a solemn oath is taken. Membership is at its present by voluntary enlistment, subject to acceptance or rejection at the discretion of the body. Appropriate regalias and uniforms are under consideration. Post commands have been established as various cities of the United States, in the West Indies, in Central and South America, and in West Africa. The government of the African Blood Brotherhood is by a Supreme Council or War College of 5, which controls the appointment and tenure of office of the commanders of the various posts
and formulates the policies and directs and the activities and movements in the organization. There are two sets of other officers, the secretaries, treasurers, chaplains, etc. of the various posts, and the international officers. These are all elected by the members, with all members participating in the election of the international offices. These officers are subject to the rulings and the decrees of the Supreme Council of War College. Under the rules of the organization, the word of the council, when issued in the form of instructions, must be considered as law by the members of the brotherhood. When issued in form of suggestions, it is expected to command at least respectful and careful consideration. There are present no stipulated fees or membership dues. These are left to the patriotism and financial ability of each member. As not enough money could be raised for the work the brotherhood has in view by the medium of fees and dues, unless they were made so large as to be prohibitive to the great mass of the race. The expedient was adopted of allowing each member to fix its own dues. By pledging himself a monthly donation, the amount may be 25 cents a month or 50 cents. $1 or whatever sum the individual can give under the patriotic rule, give till it hurts. 2/3 of all donations are collected to the war chest as a central fund for general operations of the organization. The other 1/3 is placed at the disposal of the post through which it was received, to be used within the rules of the rules of the World College, for the work of local training in the essential industries and science, etc. So, basically another secret society, a secret organization, which carries out its own missions that in many times oppose us as a people. So it's just another arm of the government to me. That's all that sums that up to be. It's just another arm of the government that can be manipulated and used against us. That's what I got from it. If you got something else from it, please let me know. But that's what I got from it. So let's go ahead and go to the other page. I just noticed I've been saying this person's name wrong, but it's not Cecil, it's Cyril. Who is Cyril Valentine Briggs? Cyril Valentine Briggs, May 28, 1888, in the Caribbean island of Nevis, October 18, 1966, Los Angeles, California, a black Caribbean writer and communist political activist. Briggs is best remembered as a founder and editor of The Crusader, a seminal New York magazine of the new Negro movement of the 1920s, and as founder of the African Blood Brotherhood, a small but historically important radical organization dedicated to advancing the cause of Pan-Africanism, in which we thought that was probably a good thing, right? Yeah, and it's not. In 1918, the ABB started a magazine called The Crusader, which supported the Socialist Party of America's platform, and it helped expose lynchings in the South and discrimination in the North. Briggs hoped that President Woodrow Wilson would support voting rights for African Americans in the South after the service of veterans in the war. Southern Democratic congressmen opposed any changes. Disillusioned by socialist and progressive efforts, Briggs joined the Communist Party of America in 1921. The leadership of the ABB gained Marxist influences. He called for control by Pan-African American workers of the means of production which employed them, whether in industry or in agriculture. Briggs became a leading exponent of racial separatism. Briggs saw American white-black racism as a form of hatred of the unlike that draws its virulence from the firm conviction in the white man's mind of the inequality of races, the belief that there are superior and inferior races, that the former are marked with a white skin and that the latter with dark skin, and that only the former are capable and virtuous and therefore alone fit to vote, rule, and inherit the earth. Briggs reminded his readers that racial antipathy is a two-way street and that Negro dislikes the white man almost as much as the latter dislikes the Negro. Briggs proposed a new solution, then emerging, in which the African American had come to the realization that the salvation of his race and an honorable solution of the American race problem called for action and decision and preference to the twaddling, dreaming, and indecision of leaders. Instead, Nothing more or less than independent, separate existence was called for. Government of the Negro people, for the Negro people, and by the Negro people. Briggs' Marxist views as applied to a separatist government caused a rift with Marcus Garvey, the founder of the Universal Negro Improvement Association. While opposed to Garvey's nationalist movement, the Marxists of the ABB did not view Africa for the Africans as an invitation to capitalist development. Briggs wrote, socialism and communism were an impractical application in Africa for centuries before they were even advanced as theories in the European world. Garvey believed that Briggs was trying to destroy the American government and filed a series of lawsuits against them. I believe they both were wrong. So I think they were just, in other words, they were fighting against each other, but both of them were wrong with the information that they had. Now that we have so much information in which, where we come from, who we are, we can make a better decision as to what's good for us and our people. But we have to go towards the evidence that shows that we had our own communities. We had our own schools. We had our own hospitals. We had our own. We didn't need to latch on to or integrate to be able to thrive as a people. So I think that if we were left alone in that moment and in that point, we would be okay. I think integration was the big thing that destroyed us as a people. But let's go ahead and go to the last page so we can play. This last page of this content is probably going to be the most important page of the content, and for such reasons you will see. I'm about to explain, and we're about to go over. So it says here, also published in the Crusader titled "The Moses That Was to Have Been, the Judas That Is," newspaper, Garvey's Telegrams. Warren G. Harding, 29th President of the United States. You are the kind of Negro we can endorse as a leader. When a Negro thinks he is as good as a white man, he is no longer a good Negro. And also Garvey. All right, we're talking about the bubbles. We don't want social equality. We are satisfied to be Jim Crow, segregated, and treated as inferiors. Just let me stay in America, and I'll be satisfied. Briggs joined the Communist Party of America in 1921 as a result of direct socializations to join the still underground movement made by Rose Pastor Stokes of the CPA and Robert Minor of the rival United Communist Party. Briggs later recalled it in a letter to historian Theodore Draper that his motivation for joining the communist movement related to the domestic policy of Soviet Russia towards its national minority groups and to the fledgling Soviet states' explicitly anti-imperialist foreign policy. Briggs will remain an active member of the Communist Party, USA, CPUSA, throughout the decades of the 1920s. I'm going to go to the last paragraph because these two paragraphs here, as you can see, that are kind of like they're repeating each other, so no need to repeat it. In 1925, the African Blood Brotherhood was dissolved and replaced with the new organization entity, the American Negro Labor Congress. Briggs was tapped as the new national secretary of the new Communist Party sponsored organization. Briggs was named a member of the governing Central Committee of the Communist Party in 1929. He would remain an influential figure in the party's hierarchy until the advent of the moderate Popular Front. Briggs would ultimately be expelled from the CPUSA at the end of the 1930s, accused of maintaining a Negro nationalist way of thinking in defiance of the new integrationist party line. Briggs was allowed to rejoin the CPUSA in 1948 following the fall of the party leader Earl Browder. He would remain active in the organization for the rest of his life, participating in its West Coast activities. When you start these organizations and you latch onto these labels that were given to you by people who reclassified you, I just don't see how that's going to really work. And none of these movements really worked because it was built on lies. It's built on untruths. So when you got these movements that are not built on any substantial truth, it's doomed to fail, right? Because you're literally using these terms that you've been reduced to, and then you're trying to make a deal with the same people who took from you, who destroyed you, who have you in the same situation that you're in. So you're trying to see, hey, how can we work out this deal? And you know, how can I lump all these two people together, and maybe you can take them back to a continent that they've never been. So more interesting stuff, guys. The next piece of content I have here is going to be about the eugenics movement of America. So that'll probably be a lot more interesting than this. And also, we have another chapter in here called Strange Bedfellows. Eugenicists, white supremacists, and Marcus Garvey. Yes, you heard it right, Marcus Garvey. It's your favorite black guy from Nebraska. Hope you guys enjoyed this piece of content. Hope you learned something. Please comment, like, and subscribe. Have a great day. Peace.